The quiet panic of doing everything right. There is a specific kind of panic that doesn't announce itself. It doesn't look like failure. It looks like discipline. You follow the rules, control impulses, delay gratification, make rational choices. From the outside, nothing is wrong. Yet internally, tension never fully releases. Rest feels provisional, as if something unseen could collapse at any moment. This panic is unsettling because it contradicts the promise you were given, that correct behavior produces stability. When that promise fails, the mind turns inward. You assume you miscalculated, lacked effort, or chose poorly. But history shows this feeling emerges precisely when systems become efficient at extracting reliability from individuals while offering none in return. The anxiety is not emotional weakness. It is a rational response to living inside structures where personal responsibility expands faster than personal control. You are asked to manage risks you did not design, absorb volatility you cannot influence, and remain calm while outcomes detach from effort. Once you see this, something subtle shifts. The pressure stops feeling personal, not because the system becomes kinder, but because you stop interpreting structural tension as a private defect. That distinction is the beginning of clarity. When survival stopped being physical and became abstract for most of human history, survival was immediate and visible. Hunger, shelter, injury, weather. Threats could be pointed to. Action produced feedback. When effort failed, the reason was usually clear. Anxiety had a physical object, and relief arrived when the danger passed. At some point, survival migrated into symbols. Promises replaced storage. The body was no longer under threat, but the mind remained alert, scanning abstractions for danger. A missed payment now triggered the same alarm as an empty field once did. This shift changed how fear operates. When danger is abstract, it never fully resolves. You can always owe more, fall behind later, or be judged by metrics that move without notice. The nervous system stays engaged because the threat has no edge, no moment of completion. The mistake is assuming this constant tension means something is wrong with you. In reality, your biology is responding correctly to an environment that removed closure. Systems gained efficiency by converting survival into symbols. Individuals absorb the cost through permanent alertness. Recognizing this doesn't eliminate pressure. It clarifies its source. You stop asking your emotions to calm down inside a structure designed to keep them active. Tribute, grain, and the birth of permanent obligation. The earliest economic systems were not built on exchange. They were built on obligation. Grain stored in central granaries was protection against famine, but it came with a condition. Contribution was no longer optional, and it was no longer temporary. Once tribute became normalized, the future itself was partially claimed. This was a quiet psychological shift. Survival stopped being something you managed season by season and became something you owed continuously. Even in years of abundance, obligation remained. What began as coordination slowly trained people to perceive their labor as incomplete until accounted for by an authority. The important detail is not exploitation, but permanence. Obligation did not end when danger passed. It survived success. That pattern repeats across history. Systems rarely release pressure once compliance is learned. They carry it forward, embedding it into routine. This is where anxiety first detached from immediate conditions. You could do well and still feel behind. You could comply and still feel exposed. Not because you failed, but because obligation had no finish line. Seeing this reframes modern pressure. The feeling of always being late, owing, or insufficient is not new. It is inherited, and it was never meant to resolve. Coinage and the illusion of neutral exchange. When empires introduced standardized coinage, it appeared to solve a problem. Value became portable, exchange became simpler, power seemed to recede into a neutral medium. A coin looked impartial in a way tribute never did. But neutrality was the illusion. Coinage did not remove power. You were no longer taking orders. You were choosing to trade. This altered behavior more effectively than force. People began measuring effort, time, and even dignity through a single symbol. What could be counted felt real. What could not slowly lost legitimacy. The system did not need to coerce meaning, it standardized it. The internal shift comes from recognizing how deeply this trained perception runs. When value is treated as objective, outcomes feel moral. Gain suggests virtue. Loss suggests failure. Emotional reactions follow automatically. Once you see coinage as a psychological technology, not just an economic one, the pressure loosens. Not because money disappears, but because you stop confusing a symbol of coordination with a verdict on your worth. Why stability has never been the point. Every system promises stability, yet none are built to deliver it. This contradiction is not a flaw, it is the design. Stability comforts individuals, but it slows structures. Systems that survive across centuries do so by adapting to disruption, not by preventing it. History makes this clear. Empires expanded through uncertainty, not calm. Financial mechanisms evolved to absorb shocks by redistributing them, usually downward. What looks like disorder at the personal level is often resilience at the systemic one. Volatility is not an accident. It is how continuity is maintained. The psychological damage comes from expecting peace from machinery designed for motion. They work harder, comply longer, and blame themselves for outcomes that were never meant to settle. The shift happens when you abandon the expectation that the system should feel stable. You stop measuring your inner state against an external structure that requires tension to function. Stability was never withheld from you, it was never offered. This does not create comfort, it creates accuracy, and accuracy reduces unnecessary resistance.